physics problem. I have a train car with a ball hanging from a string like that. And the train car is accelerating this way at 2.3 meters per second squared. And suppose that the ball is not swinging but stationary and it pulls back a little bit. Let me show you how that works. So I'm gonna accelerate my hand that way. But then I stopped. So if you had a constant acceleration, the ball would be back like this. And the question is, if the ball has a mass of 89 grams, the length of the string is 1.2 meters, what's the angle between this and the vertical? Now, I'm actually going to solve this two ways. Okay, so let's just start off with the idea that we have a glass wall on the side of our train. So you can see from the outside this mass. And in that case, I can draw all the forces acting on my ball. So let's do that. I have my ball right here. And so what forces are acting on my ball? Don't say acceleration force. Remember, forces are an interaction between two objects. We have long-range forces for forces that don't have to touch, like the interaction between the ball and the earth, the gravitational force, that's straight down. And then we have things that are touching the ball. And there's only one thing touching the ball, and that's a string. The cool thing about a string is strings can only pull in the direction of the string. So I have a tension like that. So that's my free body diagram. Now, I can use Newton's second law. Newton's second law says that the net force is mass times acceleration. And I can break that into x and y components and solve for things I don't know. But in order to do that, I need to pick a coordinate system. And so here's a very important trick. When you are dealing with the situation of an accelerating object, you want to pick your coordinate system so that the acceleration is either in the x or the y axis. You don't have to, but it's going to make your life miserable if you don't. Not miserable, maybe interesting, I don't know. So I know that the ball is accelerating this way because I can see it from outside the train. So I'm going to pick this as my x-axis and this is my y-axis. Now, if this angle between the vertical is theta, then this angle is theta. Is that right? Let's see, so, yeah, that angle is theta. Because they're parallel lines with the corresponding angles, whatever that's called in geometry. But yeah, that angle is theta. So now I can write down Newton's second law in the x and the y direction. Let's start with the y direction. So in the y direction, I can say F net in the y direction is going to be equal to the component of the tension in the y direction. So that is this force right here. And we'll just draw a little dotted line right there. So now I have a right triangle. The length of that force is tension, the hypotenuse. And we want to find the y component, which is the adjacent side. So that's going to be t cosine theta. And then I have the gravitational force pulling down minus mg. And what's the acceleration in the y direction? Well, we picked the acceleration only in the x direction, so that in the y direction it's 0. Nice. Okay, now let's do the same thing for our x direction. In the x direction, F net in the x direction, there's only one force in the x direction, and that's this gravitational force. So here's, no, it's not. It's the tension. Here's the component of tension in the x direction. So that's the opposite side of that right triangle. So I need to use the sine of the angle to get the x component. So the x component of the tension is t sine theta, and that's going to be equal to the mass times the acceleration of the train. And the ball. The ball has the same acceleration. Okay, now I want to find theta, but I don't know t. So I actually have two equations to unknowns. How do you solve two equations to unknowns? The best way is to just take one of the equations, solve for t, and plug in the other equation. So let's solve this for t. So if I do that, I get t cosine theta equals mg, and then I can divide both sides by cosine theta. T equals mg over cosine theta. Now I can plug that into this equation. I get mg sine theta over cosine theta is ma. The mass cancels. I don't need to know the mass of the ball. I gave it to you just for fun, right? It's just for fun to have that. It doesn't mean that you have to use all that stuff. I don't have the length in there either. So now, can I solve for theta? Well, I have two thetas in there, of sine theta and cosine theta. But don't forget, sine theta divided by cosine theta is tangent theta. So I can write this, I'm going to divide both sides by g. I'm going to say tangent theta is a over g. So over here, I'll put theta is the inverse tangent of a over g. And let's just put that in our calculator. And then I'm going to do the problem again. I told you I'd do it twice. Okay, so a was 2.3, 9.8 divided by, I can't see this part, and then inverse tangent. I get 13.2 degrees. Notice that the greater the acceleration, the greater this angle. But you can't get the ball to be perfectly horizontal because this ratio would have to be infinity. And that's not going to happen. Okay, now let's do the problem again. So we talked about apparent weight and what happens when you're in a non-inertial reference frame. So an inertial reference frame is one where your coordinate system is stationary, and not as stationary, but not accelerating. And that was why we looked outside the train, and we could use Newton's second law. If you want to use a non-inertial reference frame, an accelerating reference frame, so let's just take this as my train. Here's my x-axis and my y-axis, but the frame, a frame, is accelerating that way. Newton's second law doesn't work in an accelerated reference frame unless we add fake forces. So I can add a fake force here to make this whole thing work. So let's do that. This fake force, F fake, is going to be equal to negative the mass of the object times the acceleration of the frame. So the frame is accelerating that way, so we're going to add a fake force going this way. So if we do that, we can draw the following force diagram. I have the gravitational force, mg, pulling down. I have the tension going that way. Those are real forces. And now what I have to do is to add in this fake force. The acceleration is that way, so I have a fake force this way. Let's just pick this as our x-axis, and that is theta, and let's write down Newton's second law. So in the y direction, I have F net in the y direction. It's the same as before. That fake force is only in the x direction. So I have t cosine theta minus mg equals 0. And in the x direction, I have, again, t sine theta. That's just the same thing I had before. But now I have this fake force right there that I have to add in. So it's going to be minus m a frame. And it's equal to 0. But now I have the exact same equations, right? If I add this to both sides of the equation, it goes back to the previous problem, and I have the same two algebraic equations. I'll get the same solution. So why would you do it this way? Well, I don't think that you should. Everyone says fake forces are dangerous, but I believe in you, and I believe that you're responsible enough to make these decisions for yourself. Definitely don't just say, oh, it's like there's a force. If you want to use a fake force, you need to explicitly say, I'm using the non-inertial reference frame of the train, and so there's a fake force, and it's this way, okay? I think it's better to do it the other way, but there are some situations where the fake force makes it a lot easier to deal with. I'll do some of those problems later, but I want to use this as an example right now of how you would deal with a non-inertial reference frame, and that's the problem in the end.